And we're recording. So tonight's guest is Jeff Boren. Thanks, Jeff. Thanks a bunch for coming on, man.
Thanks for having me. Glad to be here.
Dude. So I met Jeff in a couple different classes. He's a training junkie just like I am. He's doing a lot of really good work. Can you tell us a little bit about some of the classes that you're offering and where you're located?
Yeah, I'm in Corinth, Mississippi, is where I live and where I work for my day job. So I'm kind of twofold. I got things that I do professionally during the day with that, which I think we're going to get into later on. But as far as training, open enrollment type stuff, I've been doing a lot of work down in Alabama for the last 7, 8 months, I guess. Mutual connection of ours hooked me up with that. So I teach monthly, sometimes 2 times a month down there, 2-day defensive pistol courses. Got a 4-day defensive pistol course coming up next month that I'm really excited about. I've done one of those, and it's really good. We get a lot of time, because what do we not have enough of? Time, of course. So this allows me to do a lot of things with that 4-day course. And most of these guys, they've been to us before. So we know where they're at, and I get to expand on what we've already learned, and we get to branch into a lot of different things. We do a little active shooter stuff, and really have it's a really good time and a lot of learning going on right there. So, and we also do a very basic introduction to carbine that is just a little 2-day course where we teach them basic stuff like offset, how to zero the red dot, that type stuff, and just get into that really basic stuff. So doing a lot of that, and that's mainly what I'm doing outside of my day job right now.
Yeah, so Corinth ain't too far from Memphis, so
No.
we really need to be hanging out more.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, so let's see. Most of the times where I see you, most of the times where I hang out with you, it's usually like a course that's somewhat related to Akil Kadir and Tiffany Johnson of Citizen Safety Academy. Like either they're putting on the course or they might be hopping into a class. So, folks, Jeff is extremely well trained. I'm talking he's gotten stuff from Tom Givens and Carl Wren and Akil Kadir and Tiffany Johnson, and just ran the gamut. Can you drop some more names for us? Like,
Yeah, with Tom Givens, Hawk and Tiff made that decision when I got into this to make that drive up to Citizen Safety Academy because I read some reviews about how that course was legitimate and you were going to have to earn it, which is why I drove past a lot of people to get up there and see them. And man, was it worth it? Because what great people, what great teachers, educators, and role models that they are. And if it weren't for them, I don't know how that path would have went, because of what the doors that they opened as far as just where to go next and what to do and how to continue to develop. So, yeah, that led me down the path to Range Master, which, literally will change your life if you let it, and that was a big deal. It really opened up a lot of things for me. And I remember going home after that first class and just trashing every curriculum I had and starting over, and so that's the kind of impact that had on me. So yeah, and did with you guys, we did some Force on Force with Carl Wren, which was fantastic. What an amazing class that was. Recently went and saw Brian Hill for his complete combatant instructor course. And saying it last, but definitely not least, Ed Monk's active shooter instructor course. And I lean very heavily on Ed, and he's been very gracious to help me out quite a bit with what I do for my day job. And can't say enough about that course and what he brings to us, just as far as that wealth of knowledge on the active shooter threat, the active killer threat, and bringing that to the forefront and actually developing a real plan to counteract that. And what I want people to realize too, he's a fantastic instructor and knows how to build a shooter as well. I mean, what a great guy. So yeah, that's kind of me in a nutshell, kind of that background of that training.
man, so awesome. So, one of the things that I really, really want to hear more about is some of the work you do for schools. Like, you're a school administrator, right?
Yes. Yeah.
So
22 years in public education. I'm getting close to that magic 25, but I will probably continue on. Because I love what I do. So yeah, I started out a classroom teacher and a football coach, and I became a head football coach, which was my goal since the 7th grade, and really enjoyed that. And I miss those kids every day. But eventually as I became an athletic director, I got interested in the administrative side of things. So that opportunity came along, and I went straight into being a high school principal, and life changed drastically with that role and what comes with it. And I'm what I call a Columbine baby. And what I mean by that is I was in the dorm room in college studying to be an educator when Columbine took place. And of course, that was the
Wow.
one that was really on the 24-hour news cycle, at least to my knowledge. We had a school shooter in Mississippi prior to that didn't catch the publicity at Pearl High School in Pearl, Mississippi. But that really impacted me as I was getting ready to go out into this world. That was 1999, I believe, and I graduated just a couple of years later and started working at the schools. And when I was student teaching, a student actually brought a shotgun to a pep rally. And luckily everything was fine. There's no problem. But I learned early on that this is real. And there is a real threat out there, and it can't be glossed over. And as Ed says, it can't be typed away, and you can't buy products to stop it. There's got to be action. So I took the active shooter threat very seriously. When becoming an administrator, that was a priority of mine because test scores, all that good stuff is one thing, but keeping kids safe, that's the top priority, and it always has been and always will be. So I put a lot of emphasis on that. And what that did is it led to me getting a job as a director of school safety. And when I took that job, I was tasked with creating an armed staff program. And I'm very fortunate to live in a community, in a school district that wants to take care of their children and wants to have a real solution to a problem that we pray never comes. But if it does, we are prepared for that. So I was tasked with writing a policy, getting that approved by the school board, which was not the challenge. The challenge was getting that approved by insurance because there's all kinds of stories you can look up where people have tried this and then the insurance is what got them. So I worked real hard on writing that policy and leaned on a lot of people we know. I mean, I'm sure Ed Monk and Akil were just tired of me texting them and several other people that I asked for input on this as I was writing this policy and taking it so serious because we needed this to work, right? So worked on that for a good solid 3 or 4 weeks and then submitted that to the insurance company, and we got a response 2 days later. And I messed up some grammar on page 4, line 3. We fixed that and we're rock and rolling. So it went through, and we were very blessed for that. So then we started the program. It's a 64-hour training program that we run that takes quite a while to complete. It's mixed with classroom and range time, of course, obviously. And that starts with a 2-day defensive pistol course that I teach. And it's a very, very rigorous course because we are wholeheartedly behind the fact that you need to know what you're doing if you're going to do this. All right. Because it's a very serious course, because a lot of times I think sometimes people that aren't enthusiasts like us, or people that's on this side of training full time, and we kind of overlook the fact that a lot of people out there think, well, I'll just take it and stick it in a backpack, or I'll put it in an ankle holster, and that type thing, or I'll have a Smith & Wesson bodyguard, and we'll be good to go, right? Yeah. And it doesn't really work that way. So the big emphasis there was building shooters first and foremost, and making sure that we were proficient as far as that goes. So that 2-day course ends with a pretty rigorous testing standard with the qualification courses of fire. We shoot the post, we shoot the FBI, and we shoot the qual that I made, which is, pretty stringent. It's pretty difficult. And thankfully, we have people that do really well. We have some washouts, and it should, it really should. I think if you think about Mr. Givens and his program and the way he talks about that, and the fact that people can fail, it's very important. But if you're failing too many, then you might want to look at your program, right? So right now we're staying in that pretty good ratio. So I feel like it's a fair program that is building shooters and building a mindset, which is what the rest of that training rolls into. We have a 3-day active shooter course that we do back to back to back. It starts with a presentation about the history of active shooters. And most people are just blown away to learn that in the 1700s, the Enoch Brown School Massacre was actually the first school shooting. And that there was a shotgun on a playground in New York in the 1800s. So it's not new, we know that. And just opening up that and getting that information out there to them before we really dive deep into what is going on when these events happen and how has the response been, how has that failed, and what we believe we can do to obviously our two enemies are time, right? We got to stop the clock, and then we got to stop the shooter, because the more time goes by, the more people are getting hurt. So that's our emphasis on that 3-day course, and we do a lot of scenario-based training throughout that. And then we actually have a light force-on-force uh, proponent of that course also that wraps that up. So in total, it's about 64 hours, I believe. Yeah, right in that, and it takes a little time to complete. And once they're through with that, they get certified, and off we go. So yeah, that's kind of it in a nutshell.
Man, that's awesome. That's so freaking cool. Like you're doing the Lord's work out there.
Well, like I said, we're very blessed that we've got a lot of support, and we've got people that want to protect these kids, and they realize, hiding behind cinder block wall is not doing any good, right? And it's something we want to be prepared to have a response for, but we pray we never have to use that response. So, yeah, very, very fortunate we have a lot of support there. Yeah.
Wow. How long have you been in charge of this team?
2 years. Yeah.
That's not bad, man. Just to get the buy-in that you're getting at this stage, that's incredible.
Yeah, it's been fantastic, and not one person has balked at it. I'm sure they have behind the scenes, of course, but publicly, and we're very transparent in our school district. We had a meeting, and I stood up and I laid this whole thing out, because anything you do with a public school, and if you approve a policy, it's public knowledge. Sometimes people don't know that, and if you're ever curious, you can go look at your books. And every policy that the school board's ever approved is open and available for you to review. So I did this. I put on I think it was an hour-long presentation, pretty much outlining what I just explained right there. And I had Ed Monk came in, had him speak openly. That was free for them to come in and kind of lay that groundwork, and that was great. And we had all of our school administrators there, plus people from the community. And then I spoke to them about what we were going to do, how this program was going to roll. And I got one question, and that was, you are going to make them do it every day, right? And I said, make them carry every day? Yes, sir. Absolutely. Yeah, that's the plan. Yeah. So yeah. And the one other thing I kind of left out of that is and I think what kind of helped with the insurance there, getting that approved. And I've talked to some other people around the country about this, is the mode of carry and things like that. We're very, very stringent on that, because that's one of the fears from people that are not around guns a lot, and maybe don't understand our world a little bit, is, well, it's going to get left somewhere, or it's going to fall out. We require inside the waistband quality Kydex holsters. If you're carrying a spare magazine, it's got to be inside the waistband as well. There's no pocket carry. There's no backpack carry. There's no ankle carry or anything like that, which, there's been some people that were interested in the program, and if I got to carry it in my waistband, I'm not going to do it. Well, okay, thank you for your offer, but we're going to move on.
Yeah.
It is a school. There's children aged 3 to 21 in those buildings. So we take that very serious, and plus it's the right way to do it, right? We all know if you really train and you really prepare for this kind of stuff, you're going to fight with what you got. And the gun in the car is doing you no good when the kid smuggles in the rifle and opens up fire. What's on your person is going to be what you're going to fight with. So we do the best we can to set up for that and prepare for that. Like I said, God willing, we never have to deal with that. We're just really prepared. We never have to actually execute that plan, but we're ready for it, and we train for it. And the year ends and the new one begins. We just start the process over. We have 64 hours to get certified. We have 50 to maintain certification. So, and most of the time they're calling me saying, hey, if you're not booked Saturday, can we go to the range? I'm like, sure, let's go. So it's a good group of people to work with. I'm very blessed. Yeah.
That's so awesome. Dadgum. I gotta make it out to, say hi to those guys.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Yeah. They're a great group, and they're doing this on their own. It's strictly volunteer. There's no money in it. When we first got started, I couldn't buy them ammo, right? Because it's school, right? So we have had some legislation come through in Mississippi that took effect July 1 that's relieved that a little bit. And, now I can help them out just a little bit with things like ammo and that type stuff. So, but they did this all on their own. And it was strictly because they cared about the kids and they wanted to do the right thing. So that they inspire me.
That's so amazing. Wow. That is incredible. Man. So it's not just that's not the only cool thing you're doing right now. Like, what was it? Didn't you? I think just this last weekend, you were helping a Kill Kadir with an active shooter class.
Yes, yes. Up at On Target Shooting Sports in Nashville. There, I came up Saturday night. I was intending to come all along because I wanted to watch it because it pertains to what I do, and Akil is the master instructor. So why do I not want to go sit through that? So I was intending just to attend as a guest, and then we got to talking on Saturday. He's like, "You run some scenarios?" I was like, "Heck yeah!" So let's roll. So we ended up having a really good day. We had 10 people there that were really motivated, really good students, and they wanted to learn, and they're there to protect kids. So anytime somebody's wanting to do that, I'm there. Free of charge. I don't care. Let's go do that. And take care of those kids. And because I was a principal, and what people don't realize is when you're a principal, people come and shut the door in your office and they tell you things they wouldn't tell anybody else. And there was not a year went by when I didn't have athletes, popular kids, unpopular kids, middle of the road, you name it, that didn't come and sit in my office and shut the door and say, "What are you doing to take care of me?" And so that's important to me. And my voice trembles a little bit when I talk about that, because when you have that kid sitting there and they want to know, are they safe? Because with social media and being what it is, the things that they deal with, we didn't. And sometimes we don't necessarily understand that every night there's someone making a threat on one of these platforms. And then it happens somewhere. And then that becomes real again to them. And it's this threat that I'm seeing coming across last week. Is that going to come to fruition? Is it going to happen to us? So, anytime we can train people to help take care of these kids, make them feel safe, I'm 100% in. And Akil is, like I said, amazing instructor and doing a really good job with that. And those people that are going to him to get that training, they're just making their school that much more safe. So we had a great time, good students. And I think we got some excitement, some buy-in out of those guys. And I think they want more. So that was really fun to see. We were kind of talking, when people are hanging around 30 minutes after class, you've had a good one. So we were very proud of that, and look forward to hopefully maybe doing some more of that later down the road.
Yeah, definitely, definitely. Um, what do you see are some of the barriers that some of these like school boards and organizations are having in order to like protect their kids from like stuff that happened in Memphis last week?
Sure, yeah, and it's a lot of it. I think is the obvious that we think it is, and then there's some other things that are problematic as well, and a lot of that is a misunderstanding of how to address the issue to begin with. And Ed has been saying this for a long time. You can't type away a problem, and you can't buy a problem away. You can't buy the solution to that, right? Because if you go, and I was just at one of these, I was at a big conference for school safety recently, and every speaker, every booth set up was trying to sell us the latest and greatest technology. And I get this email 4 times a day, no joke. Buy this piece of equipment and we will monitor and let you know when your active shooter begins. That's too late. We're already going to know at that point, right? So it's a money grab. And what that does is it preys on these people that don't understand what we're trying to do, and what others there's other schools. We're not alone. There's other schools that are doing this, other districts out there, that you have to have a real solution to the problem. And a lot of times that solution, which is obviously being able to meet force with force and in that as quickly as we possibly can, doesn't sit well with some people, right? And it can be political, it can be emotional, it can be just complete not understanding how it works. And I think that is the biggest factor. And if people actually understand a little bit more about what we do, how safe it really is, when you get quality training and you get around good people that are proficient, and that could take a little bit of that out of them. But I think mostly what it is it's a fear of a lawsuit at the end of the day, because you're liable. Let's look at Uvalde. We'll look at Parkland, and the list can go on and on and on. There's lawsuit after lawsuit, and there's a story I'd really love to tell, but I can't tell that with personal experience. But I'll just say this, there are people out there that's their job is to protect you from liability, right? And those are the people that you're fighting in these instances. And if you don't have a superintendent, a school board that is wanting this, it's going to be very, very hard to make something like this happen. And usually what it comes down to is just a lack of understanding of what the program really is, and that fear, that liability is what I'm seeing. Because like I said, I get a lot of questions, and I get a lot of people that are fired up and they're ready to do this. And then they come back and say, well, they're too worried about a lawsuit. So it's unfortunate, but we are making progress. There, more and more districts across the country are picking this up, and I think people are just tired of it, as they should be.
Are there any other organizations that are helping out with this? Like I heard about an NRA program or something.
I'm not familiar with the NRA program. There is a group, and if you wouldn't ask me, I could spit it out for you, out of Ohio. Spear, maybe, I can't remember. I would have to Google it, man. And because I've looked into their stuff, and it's legitimate. They got some legitimate people that seem to be doing some really good things, and they're doing a program similar to what I'm doing down here, and similar to what some people out there are doing in Texas and things like that. But outside of that, I'm not much aware of any major groups that are going around and doing things like this. I mean, I know there's programs like the USCCA has their countering the mass shooter threat thing.
Yeah, they have a class.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then you got the Alice and the Crace and things like that that's through law enforcement. But I don't know of anything where people are actually going out and working to defend the territory, for lack of a better term. Yeah. Outside of that group in Ohio. Yeah.
Yeah.
And they could be there. I'm not sure.
So you've gotten training from Carl Wren, from Akil Kadir, from Ed Monk. You have a a response team as well. If there are trainers that are listening to this podcast or watching this video, and they're thinking about uh, providing training for protecting kids, then what are some of the things that they should consider? Like, how do you even get started with something like that?
Yeah, because the truth of the matter is, I'm an anomaly. I'm a school person. I've been my entire life has been spent in school. I left college and went right back into high school. Right, teacher, coach, athletic director, school administrator, district administrator. There's no level of that I have not been a part of. I understand how school works inside and out, which was why I was able to write a policy fairly easily to kind of fit into that mix. So I'm not saying be me. What I'm saying is learn that, because the key is this is not it's a school. Schools function differently. Akil said this Sunday in class when he was talking about doing some school security in the past. It's like a town upon itself, and it really is.
Mm.
You have your mayor and the principal, you have your your teachers, and then you have your students, and it kind of just filters in like a community, and that's what it is. And of course you have the outside influences with the stakeholders, which are the parents, the community members, things like that. So in the way the school day operates and the different procedures and policies that have to be followed due to federal, state, and local laws kind of change up the way you have to plan and prepare. So that my advice to anybody that wants to jump into this and help, please do, because people need all the help they can get. We all do. But learn how the school operates. That will really make life a whole lot easier for you when you go to start working with this training. I think that's the best advice I got, because if you know how to train them, you know how to train them. That doesn't change, but just how to operate in that facility and in that setting, I think is one of the big factors.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah. Um, if someone wants to join their school security team, like what level of skill are they looking at? Like like do I need to be able to pass dot torture, or do I need to pass the FBI qual or something? Like how well do I need to shoot?
Well, of course, I can answer that from me. Yeah, because what we're going to do, if you apply, you submit an application. Is what we do. It's all private. There's only a few eyes that see this. We don't publish our list. It's protected of who's a part of this, because that defeats the purpose, right? And we don't want that undue stress on them of that being public knowledge anyhow. So if you do that, the first thing you do, I'm going to sit down and interview you, and I'm going to ask you what your views are on the use of deadly force. And if you can't pass that part, you're not making it to the second level. So if you can give me a halfway decent definition of what deadly force is, and prerequisites to deadly force and things like that, then we can start having a conversation, which that leads to the two-day pistol course, which is the only part of the training that is focused solely on running the gun, to say. Um, and what I'm looking for there is you have to be able to get in and out of the holster. You can't be new. Um, if you have no experience with that, it's going to be very difficult for you. So I have had in this process, and this is what I love about the group of people I work with. In that initial meeting, I had multiple students say, I shoot a lot and I understand, or I believe that I understand the fundamentals of shooting. I've never drawn the holster. Is there a way that we can work before the class? And I'm like, yeah. You asked me to train, we're going to go train. And whether you make it through the process or not, you're safer out in public, right? So as a trainer, that's my goal anyway. I want you to be safe everywhere, because not only am I training them to operate in the school, I'm training them to operate in life too. I care about what happens to them when they leave the schoolhouse. So yeah, we had some people that did that. They asked because we had time. There was a few weeks before the program kicked off, and we went and we put in some work, and they worked. And from experience, and other instructors do as well, you can get somebody pretty proficient out of the holster pretty quick if they're committed, right?
Yeah.
So and that that's a barrier for a lot of people to do, I guess, performance shooting, whatever, for lack of a better term, is that initial step of being able to get in and out of the holster safely. So that's obviously a big requirement, is you can't be a new shooter. That's going to be very difficult for you. So we shoot the post, and use the very big target, and we do that, and we do FBI simply because the same reason that Tom Givens and Carl Wren and all those tell you guys to shoot it, because you're documenting that, right? Because if we ever do have to answer for this, well, this is what the FBI special agents do, and this is the same thing. I'm holding to 90%. Because that's doable. It's very doable, and they're getting there, for the most part. And then my qualification is it's pretty rigorous. It goes from 5 to 25 yards. I skipped the 3 because it's not a parking lot situation, right? It's a school with an active shooter. So in my thought process on that is I don't want to neglect the 3-yard line, but if you can do it at 5, you can do it at 3. Right. So we kind of start there. And what we're doing is we're looking for solid times. I'm not holding them to range master instructor standards or anything like that, but I'm holding them to solid standards as far as the time goes. And we're shooting, dominant hand, non-dominant hand, we're kneeling a little bit, things like that, because this is the one aspect of training where kneeling and actually going prone might come into play. So don't focus a lot on that, but like we've been taught by these great instructors we went and seen, we do enough of it in case, right? So that we're familiar with it, and I always think of the Tom Gibbons story about the shooter on the porch, and that come back and told him, I never knew I'd be a statistic, but he practiced at 25 yards at Tom's range, right? So that the first time I heard that story, it stuck in my head. It's like that's the mindset I've got to get with my students. To if I can get that mindset in them, then we've accomplished a lot. So we work like that when it comes to the anomalies, like kneeling, going prone, for example, which we do just enough of to just in case, that type deal. But yeah, and then we back all the way up to 25, and we're doing some pretty good work back there. So it's very similar to some of the things we see in some of these higher level courses that we've attended with a little bit more generous time constraints.
Man, that sounds really awesome. Um, that's an excellent way to answer that question, because um, I have that question for my guys too. You know what I mean? Like the folks that I train with and the folks that come and see me. Like what level of training, like what do you need to be able to accomplish if you're going to, if you've been led to do this type of work.
Mhm.
So, man, thanks so much for those answers.
Sure.
So so Jeff, how did you get into this? Like, how did you get into shooting?
Uh, like a lot, it's been a lifelong thing. Somebody asked me this question not long ago, and my answer, they laughed at it, but it's true. I'm a child of the 80s, so I started training at 10 years old because Hans Gruber went after Nakatomi Plaza right on Christmas. And I'm waiting for that to happen to me because I'm watching Die Hard, I'm watching Lethal Weapon, things like that as I'm growing up, and it just sparks this desire to be able to defend like those guys were doing in those movies and take care of people. And my dad was in the military, so that was an inspiration too. Just like you, thank you, appreciate what you did, always. So that really drove me. And I remember after I watched Die Hard for the first time, I went to my dad. It was Die Hard, I believe it came out in the summertime. It was at Christmas time when the movie came out, and when Christmas was coming up, I remember right after I saw it, and I'm like, "What do you want for Christmas?" A Beretta 92. And my dad looked at me, he's like, and if he listens to this, I don't know if he'll remember this story or not, but I do. And I think it's an awesome story. He said, a Beretta 92. Remember, he's in the military at that time, or just had gotten out. And I said, "Yes, I need a Beretta 92 so I can start training." And he said, "No, you don't." And I said, "Why not?" He said, "It's a piece of junk." So, and I asked him about that years later. He was like, "No, they're not that bad. It's what we had and what we'd been cycled through so many times and not cleaned. And this, you could like almost see the bullets going down range." So anyhow, yeah, I've had an interest in training since a very young age, and I've always been drawn to pistols. My wife loves the long guns, so I have to fool with them sometimes. But no, I like those too. But yeah, I remember I live in Mississippi, but I've never hunted. I've been fishing a couple of times, but never was a hunter. I was always playing sports or whatever else, and never really got into it. Um, but back in high school, I remember very specifically after school one day, it was in between football and baseball season. It was hunting season. And the guys were like, "Come with us, man. We're going to go hunting after school." I'm like, "I'll go watch." So we go and we get to the gun cabinet and everybody's grabbing a shotgun and a rifle. And his dad had just bought I think it was a Gen 2 Glock 17. I'm like, grabbing it, a box of 9mm. Like, "What are you doing, man?" "I'm going to shoot this." I've been looking for one of these, man. Yeah, and then I got out of school and saved up enough money to buy a police. I believe it was police trade-in Glock 23. I don't remember, back in the 40 Smith and Wesson days, and started training because I wanted to learn how to do the things that I'd been seeing all those years on the movies and things like that. And then had a real incident, and then I started taking training serious. Right. Um, and the mindset instantly switched because you're a kid, and sometimes you need something to shake you into reality, right? So yeah, that and pretty much since then, and I've been married to my wife for a while now, almost 8 years, and God bless her for putting up with me. But she has been a godsend because she encourages this and supports it, and that's what's really allowed me to dive into this and do what I'm doing now. So without that, and there's a lot of stories like that, in this business with supportive wives that take care of us and help us achieve our goals. And for me, that goal is just to try to help people and get out there and work. And she lets me do that. When we were getting ready for to go help Ox Sunday, it's Saturday night. It's like 9:30, 10 o'clock. She's in the floor taping up non-threat targets for me. And I'm like, man, you're awesome. So,
That's so
yeah,
awesome.
yeah. So yeah, I'm
Wow.
blessed. I'm
Like,
blessed, man.
man, God bless her. Wow. That's awesome. Yeah. So let's see. Um, man, that is awesome. That's There's not enough credit that goes out to our families for just letting us, do our stuff.
No,
Um, especially if it's not, what's paying the bills, especially if it's like a
right,
side hustle or something.
right.
So, man,
Yeah.
it's pretty amazing.
Yeah,
So
and we need to tell them that too, because
we
I
need
had a recent
yeah,
experience with that. Like all of us, I love my children. I love my wife, I love my family, but we're gone a lot. And I've been very fortunate for the last year and a half. I've been booked up a lot. I've been blessed to get to do a lot of work, and this broke my heart. I'm coming home from work, and my son says, "If you're not training this weekend, can we go to the movies?" And I'm like, "Mm," and I said, "Well, you know what? I'm going to postpone that." And then he said this. He's like, "No, they need to do that." I'm like, he's like, "We'll go Monday." I'm like, okay. So they do make sacrifices, and we don't always see that because we've got our eye on a goal, right? And then you hear something
oh
like that,
man,
you realize the sacrifices they're making for us to help these people. And that's what's so amazing about our community, right? The training community, because it's selfless. It is. And our families are
yeah.
part of that. Yeah.
How's your son?
20.
Oh man, yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
So
Loves
that's pretty.
revolvers. He wants to have a conversation. He's heard me talk. He's heard enough podcasts and heard my wife and I, and he's been around the kill a time or two. He's heard enough about Tom Gibbons. He wants to have a discussion with him about revolvers.
Who better?
Like, hey, man, you've got good taste in people you want to talk to. He doesn't like semi-automatics. He loves revolvers, and that's his deal. And
Oh man.
yeah, so
Well, we gotta hook him up with some revolver guys,
yeah,
like
yeah, it's
like get
coming.
him in front of like.
He's saving up for a Colt Python. That's what he wants. I was trying to lean him towards a couple other things, but hey, that's what he wants. He's been saving up. He'll be 21 next year. I said, hey, brother, go do it, man. I'll take you
Oh
up
man,
there. Yeah.
dude, bring him to TacCon.
Yeah.
Oh, dude, he would love it.
He would,
Like
but yeah.
hanging out with guys like Wayne Dobbs and Daryl Bolke, and
Oh, yeah.
oh, dude,
He would
yeah.
either be on staff before he left or kicked out. I'm not sure which one, but one of the two. Yeah.
Oh man, yeah. So, what you got coming down the pipe? What do you have coming up here in the future?
Finishing up this year with a lot of pistol work. I'm really excited about that. I got the 4-day coming up, which is I've done that once, and it's a long week, and it'll wear you out, but it's worth it because just of that extra time that we have to get so much done. There's no, we all have expendables in our lessons, right? If we can get to it, fantastic. But how many times we haven't cut out this stuff that we really want to give them, but we just don't have the time, and that's really why we do this because it does allow us to have that extra time to really check off every box on that lesson plan. And we kind of did it, and it kind of just came out of nowhere. We were talking about it, and he was like, the owner's at Patriot Training Center's name of Easterboga, Alabama. He says, "What's your thoughts about extended classes?" And I said, "I'm all for it." And he said, "Well, what do you think?" He said, "What do you need to really teach this really teach a defensive pistol course?" I said, 4 days, but who's going to come to that? Because number one, the price is going to get up there. And on top of that, that's 4 days. So you're coming the night before, you're spending 4 days, you're not getting out till 5 o'clock on that last day. You may be coming from far enough away, you've got to spend another night in a hotel.
Yeah.
So he was like, let's try it. I was like, okay. so we put it on there and it booked, man. And we were talking after that, and I was like, man, we ain't got enough for the fall. And I said, I got a couple of open dates. He said, you want to try another 4 days? I was like, yeah, sold out in 2 days. So um, I think it was two
Oh
days. It was
man.
relatively quick. So there's a lot of interest in that, and believe it or not, and I'm not on that side of things. I don't do that. But yeah, I got sent a roster right after we put that out there, and I was like, "Is this right?" And like, yeah, it's sold out. I'm like, okay. So we got that coming up. I'm really excited about that because I love that because I get to introduce active shooter stuff into that course, and it's light. What I get to do is I have a day. It's day 3, and that's I kind of call that a light introduction to reality based training. Because what I'm doing is I'm talking to them about active shooters, giving them a real brief overview of some of the things that we've seen out in public. Because I don't stick to schools because that's not their life, right? So we talk about Elijah Dixon and the mall, things like that, and some of these other active shooter events that we've had recently, just to give them an idea how that operates. And of course, my main goal is if you can get out of there, get out of there. But if you have no other choice, here's some options for you. And we do some light scenario training with the photorealistic targets and those scenarios. Like, and you've been to Ed's instructor course, right?
Yeah.
So you're following me on that and set up those scenarios for them to come in and have to make that identification. What's glorious about that is I think, when we train, we have this prescribed number of rounds at a prescribed target area of that target, and then we go back down to the ready and we holster up and do it again because that's how we got to train, right? But then the glorious thing about these scenarios is, and I tell them beforehand, and they don't get it until they do it. This is real. It's gonna take less than 4 seconds, and it's gonna be over, and you're gonna be like, wow. And the first time they run through that scenario, they identify the threat, they put 3 or 4 rounds in it, and they're like, what do I do now? Closer to go. Let's talk about it now, right? So, and then they never do any after action assessment of this. So we walk through that, and you got to be, eyes up, all that stuff, and then we break that down and we do it and we do it and we do it and we do it and we progress in difficulty. And I have time to do that in that 4-day course. I have a whole day I can dedicate to that. And then on day 4, we're finishing up. We're getting ready to do some qualifications and things like that, and because we run them through several qualifications. We have our own set up for down there, and we let them shoot the FBI. We don't tell them. We say, I'm running through this course of fire right here. See how you do, guys. And then they smoke it, and I'm going to use past the FBI. What? Yeah, yeah. Special agent. Had an 84-year-old show up and passed it. The guy was in phenomenal shape. He told me his age, and I almost fell over on the range. I thought he was probably 55. I mean, the guy, I'm like over here just, he's like, man, when we going again? I'm like, how are you doing this, man? But yeah, he shooting a Colt Commander, and he went
Oh man.
immediately. He emailed me. He immediately went and bought a Glock after that class because it was a 700 round course. He was like,
Oh
I'm not
yeah.
again. 1911. And I'm like, man, I'm just proud you plan to do it again. That's like, at your age, keep working, brother. That was really cool. So, yeah, just a lot of pistol work coming up for the rest of the year. That's pretty much going to close out 23 for me. And hopefully 24 is going to a lot more of the reality based training stuff. That's where my head's at right now. Got some stuff I'm working on there.
Man, right on. Yeah. Wow. So here we are coming up on it. Dadgum. There's I cannot believe how quickly, like right now we're at about 43 minutes, 44 minutes. I can't believe how quickly this passed by. Like it
Yeah,
just flew by.
especially
So
having to listen to me, man. I mean,
man, I'm here for it. Yeah. Can you tell everybody like if we want to get a hold of you, where can we find you? Where can we get in touch with you?
yeah, easiest way is I begrudgingly have a Facebook page. I go on there strictly to go to my range master forum and primary, secondary, and all the gun stuff. you know,
Yeah.
but I do have a page. It's Jeff Boren. You can find me in Boren Training Solutions is is my company, and it has a little page too. So you can message me through Facebook Messenger, and I'll get it. I'll respond because I am a district level school administrator. I do a little bit more than train people. I'm busy, and my phone's in my hand all day long. So I get messages, and I return them best I can. And Jeff at BorenTrainingSolutions.com is my email. That's BOREN Solutions.com. So yeah, that's how you can get me, and that's the fastest and easiest way to get me. It's through those emails or messenger services.
Right on. I'm gonna get these links right here, and I'm gonna put them into the description for the podcast. That way, no matter where you're listening to them or where you're watching this, you'll be able to get a hold of Jeff. Okay. So, man, tell you what, Jeff, like this was awesome. Just thank you so much for spending your time with us. I really do appreciate it, man.
My pleasure. I appreciate
Yeah.
you having me on.
And brother, you're doing the Lord's work, man. Just keep trucking.
We're
Yeah.
gonna stay at it. We're gonna stay at it. Yeah.
Right on. And also, folks, if you're listening to this or if you're watching it, we just want to let you know how much we appreciate the time you're spending with us. That it's not lost on me how precious your time is. You could be doing it. You could spend it with your family or earning some extra cash, but you're spending it with us. I just want to let you know how much we appreciate it. So thanks for watching and thanks for listening. Welcome to Memphis.